bad things well said.
Welcome back to the only analysis studio in the North Atlantic where the coffee is, frankly, always cold, the judgment is predictably swift, and the truth.
The truth is practically guaranteed to ruin your otherwise perfectly acceptable Saturday morning.
Oh, yeah?
You have tuned into Bad Things Well Said Icelandic Newsroom.
And if you've just clicked play, maybe brace yourself. It is Saturday, November 1st, 2025, and we're here to wrap up a week where this, magnificent, rugged nation, literally sculpted by tectonic forces and millennia of ice, somehow performed an act of collective, institutional self-sabotage.
You could say that.
And the cause. The utterly terrifying, completely unexpected arrival of snow in late October.
Shocking, I know. The narrative of Icelandic competence, it took such a beating this week, you could practically hear the structural supports groaning from here in the studio.
Yeah.
We watched a supposed Nordic paragon of preparedness collectively lose its mind and its balance in, 27 centimeters of snow?
Yeah. It was less a storm and more kind of national psychological stress test.
Yeah?
Which we failed. Spectacularly. Right. So we're not here today to just skim the headlines. That's boring. We're here to dissect the failure, maybe celebrate the exquisite absurdity of it all, and ask why, exactly, we market ourselves as these hardy Viking types when our entire national infrastructure folds faster than, cheap cardboard packaging at the first sight of a delicate snowflake.
We've got a lot of ground to cover. Or maybe I should say a lot of treacherous black ice to navigate carefully.
That's right. Over the next half hour or so, we'll take you through the bureaucratic blizzard that just engulfed the Capitol. We'll show you how the police managed to engineer this spectacular legal catch-22, we've already dubbed it the tire trap.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Turning perfectly law-abiding citizens into instant criminals. All while, get this, the police commissioner's office was apparently running a financial black hole so deep it was funding furniture shopping tricks at JYSK.
JYSK. You can't make this stuff up, and we absolutely can't ignore the high drama down at KEFLAVÍK CATASTROPHE.
Whoa, slow down there. Kefla what now?
KEFLAVÍK CATASTROPHE. KEFLAVÍK CATASTROPHE. Come on, it's only our main international airport.
Right. KEFLAVÍK CATASTROPHE. Easy. Anyway, yes, the airport where Isavia, the beloved state-owned monopoly, somehow managed to turn our gateway to the world into a kind of 5-star isolation chamber.
All because apparently they misplaced the snow shovels. Or maybe just forgot to hire enough people to, operate them. Again.
Plus, we have the sheer existential dread of economics, which is always fun. The central bank governor, Asgeir Johnson.
That's Geir Jonsson.
Geir Jonsson, thank you, spending his valuable time researching the business practices of Count Dracula.
Yes, Count Dracula. Is there a more perfect, more terrifyingly accurate metaphor for Icelandic finance right now? I submit there's not.
Probably not, no.
And finally, we will cover the ultimate national humiliation. The official postponement of
Reykjavik Halloween.
Yes, Reykjavik, postponed. Because apparently our precious children are far too delicate to brave a bit of wind and slush for a Mars bar.
It's a tragedy wrapped in an absurdity served cold. And honestly, we wouldn't have it any other way.
Our mission today, as always, is simple. To provide the painful clarity that, let's be honest, nobody else seems willing to offer. Because, the truth, it's deeply uncomfortable. It tends to ruin those perfectly manicured national self-images.
It really does.
So maybe settle in. Or don't. We are about to challenge the very narrative of Nordic competence. This is your official warning, okay? You probably shouldn't follow us.
Definitely not.
Ignorance is bliss, and we deal exclusively in painful, targeted cynicism. Don't subscribe. It might actually compel you to, God forbid, think critically about who is running this place.
Okay, let's dive in where the whole week's chaos really started, the weather. And look, the meteorological office, they actually did their job. They were practically screaming about a predicted blizzard, a 24-hour snowfall of, 20 to 30 centimeters?
Yeah, something like that. This wasn't some bolt from the blue, some unexpected meteor strike. This was scheduled programming. It was in the forecast days ahead.
And yet, Iceland collectively acted as though it was the first time precipitation had ever dared to freeze in this hemisphere. By Tuesday, October 28th, Reykjavik officially recorded a spectacular 27 centimeters, an all-time record for October, apparently.
And in some local spots, like up in the hills around the city, people were reporting up to 40 centimeters. 40. And what did the capital city do in response?
It seized up Completely. It performed a full, almost theatrical system failure, like a bad actor forgetting their lines on opening night.
The official response, of course, was to issue those ominous orange and yellow warnings, which, let's be honest, is just the government's way of saying, look, we don't actually have the physical resources to deal with this, so could you all please just self-isolate and maybe pray?
Right. The societal paralysis was immediate, instantaneous. It was like someone just flicked the collective off switch on the entire greater Reykjavik area. Everything just stopped.
And the traffic chaos. Oh, the traffic chaos was beautiful in its tragic, monumental scale. Our roads didn't just slow down, they genuinely became, as someone perfectly described it, a parking lot of impotent rage.
Impotent rage is good. It felt like Mad Max, Fury Road, but, swap the war boys for slightly panicked people in Toyota Yaris models spinning uselessly on the tiniest incline.
And the numbers back it up. We saw over 80 collisions reported to ericstir.is in a single day. Think about that for a second. 80 separate, expensive, infuriating moments of realizing you really should have put those winter tires on 2 weeks ago.
Or maybe just stayed home. But the real insight, I think, into the national character came from some of the anecdotal stuff filtering through. I particularly loved the reports of the city buses, Strado, these usually reliable symbols of sensible public transportation.
Listing like beached whales. That was the phrase used.
Exactly, listing like beached whales in the snowdrifts, powerless.
And that image, I think it was from Garrett Aber, of these fully grown adults, supposedly the descendants of fearless seafaring conquerors, right? Having to disembark from a multi-ton bus and attempt, futilely, to push it up a slight slippery gradient. I mean, it's just a profound metaphor, isn't it?
It really is.
It suggests that our famed Viking hardiness is perhaps only applicable when we're comfortably inside, looking out at the snow through a triple-glazed window, maybe with a hot chocolate.
The moment we actually have to interact with it, we resort to desperate, sweaty, collective pushing, usually followed by failure.
It's the moment the carefully crafted myth clashes head-on with a poorly funded reality of municipal services. The sagas say we are tough, resilient. The reality says our city's road clearing capacity seems optimized for, a mild California drought.
Which is a perfect, seamless transition from pure weather failure to exquisite institutional absurdity. And this brings us to the tire trap. For me, this is the absolute pinnacle of the week's bureaucratic mismanagement. It's almost elegant in its awfulness.
Oh, the tire trap. Yes. Let's unpack this because it is an absolute masterpiece of regulatory contradiction, a thing of terrible booty.
Okay, so the Reykjavik Metropolitan Police, faced with gridlock largely caused by people stuck on unsuitable summer tires, decided to act their solution. Start issuing massive fines, 20,000 ISK per tire for any vehicle deemed ill-equipped and stuck in the snow.
Right. 20,000 ISK per tire. That's what, roughly $140 US, 130 euros per wheel. So potentially 80,000 ISK, maybe $560 or $520 just for getting stuck. Which, on the surface sounds like maybe tough but necessary enforcement, right? Keep the main roads clear. Public order.
You could maybe argue that. But here is the truly structural contradiction that elevates this from mere heavy-handedness to a Kafkaesque bureaucratic horror show. Icelandic law explicitly forbids the use of studded winter tires until October 31st.
Exactly. Let's nail down the timeline here because it's crucial. The catastrophics know the main event hit primarily on Tuesday, October 28th. The police started issuing these huge fines almost immediately on that Tuesday and Wednesday.
So, if you were a conscientious, law-abiding driver, the kind of responsible citizen the state constantly claims it wants, you were legally required to keep your summer tires on your car until Thursday, October 31st.
Which means you were punished, heavily fined up to 80,000 ISK for obeying the actual law of the land, which prohibited you from using the adequate equipment needed to navigate a predictable forecast October snowstorm.
The state literally mandated your vulnerability to the conditions, and then it monetized your inevitable failure when those conditions arrived. It's stunning.
Well, hang on. Let me play devil's advocate for a tiny second.
Right.
The police, specifically Chief Superintendent Arne Friedleifsson.
Arne Friedleifsson. Got it that time.
Pretty close. Arne Friedleifsson. He defended this policy right. He cited their general authority under traffic law to fine for unsuitable tires, regardless of the date. Their argument basically was that the immediate priority was just keeping the main road system open, and getting stuck cars out of the way, no matter why they were stuck, was paramount. Isn't there a small, cold, pragmatic argument that this was necessary triage in an emergency.
Necessary triage, perhaps, but carried out with all the grace and nuance of a payday lender, not a public servant. If your entire strategy for keeping roads open relies on finding citizens who are legally compliant with a contradictory statute, well, then the failure is systemic, isn't it? It's not the individual driver's fault.
They could have issued warnings. They could have focused on towing vehicles, maybe billing later. But slapping people with 20,000 ISK fines per tire on October 28th, 3 full days before they're legally allowed to mount the better tires, that isn't about safety. That feels much more like opportunistic revenue harvesting from the victims of the state's own poorly synchronized regulations.
It's the ultimate act of bureaucratic self-cannibalization. The state designs a trap, pushes you into it, and then charges you 80,000 ISK for the privilege of watching the whole absurd spectacle unfold.
And while the city roads were dissolving into this expensive chaos, the problem was being magnified, like exponentially out at KEFLAVÍK
KEFLAVÍK. Still sounds wrong.
It takes practice.
Yeah.
Anyway, our main international airport, the KEFLAVÍK Catastrophe, let's call it.
Run by Isavia. Isavia. The state-owned monopoly that controls our aerial gateway to the world. And boy, did they manage to set a new benchmark for operational failure this week. Dozens of flights canceled, thousands of people stranded, and the information flow basically non-existent, like trying to get updates from a black hole.
Oh, and for those lucky enough to actually land, the trauma was often just beginning. Passengers stuck on the tarmac for hours, sometimes 4 or 5 hours, a kind of airborne purgatory, just waiting for stairs, waiting for a gate, waiting for anything that suggested an offloading process was actually happening.
And then, if they finally made it inside, hours more waiting in the terminal for luggage that, more often than not, seemed to have vanished into another dimension. Maybe it got sent to JYSK by mistake.
Wouldn't surprise me. But what I found truly, utterly egregious was the official narrative spun by Isavia. Their information officer, Guðjón Helgason, had the audacity to claim the snow was surprisingly heavy.
Surprisingly heavy. That phrase alone should be grounds for immediate dismissal. Or maybe just forced relocation to Siberia to study actual heavy snow. We live on a subarctic island. October snow isn't a surprise, it's an annual meteorological contract negotiation with Mother Nature.
Exactly. And he went on to laud the staff for performing heroic deeds. Heroic deeds, like finding the one functioning snowplow.
The bitter truth, which everyone knew, is that Isavia was caught out yet again with woefully insufficient snow clearing equipment and, crucially, inadequate staffing levels. It's the same story almost every year there's significant snow.
And this isn't an act of God, is it? It's a direct result of corporate choices made by a monopoly. They seem to prioritize minimizing operational costs and maximizing profit margins over investing in robust, resilient capacity for predictable winter events.
They kept the airport technically open to allow planes to land, presumably to keep the landing fees rolling in, knowing full well they didn't have the capacity on the ground to actually service those aircraft properly.
Right. The real heroes in that situation weren't the executives spinning tales of heroism. They were the exhausted, freezing airline ground crews who were reportedly seen having to manually haul luggage carts through deep snowdrifts because Isavia failed to clear the aprons effectively.
That's not heroism, that's negligence. It's a clear systemic failure rooted in prioritizing profit over predictable winter readiness. They got away with it last year, they got away with it this year, and mark my words, they'll probably get away with it next year unless the monopoly structure is fundamentally challenged or someone in government finally develops a spine.
And just to wrap up this whole section of frozen failure and incompetence, we have the ultimate symbol of our modern, perhaps overly cautious, risk-averse national character. On Friday, October 31st, Halloween itself, several municipalities around the country officially postponed Reykjavik.
They postponed trick-or-treating Iceland. The nation that sells rugged landscapes and Viking heritage to tourists officially declared that the simple act of children acquiring candy was too dangerous because of gale force winds and some slush.
It's perfect, isn't it? In its own sad way.
It is. Our ancestors, sailed fragile longships across the storm-tossed North Atlantic to raid monasteries and conquer lands. But apparently modern Icelandic children cannot be permitted to face a stiff breeze and some frozen water in pursuit of sugary tribute from their neighbors.
The fierce Viking spirit has been successfully neutered and replaced by municipal liability concerns and Gore-Tex. It's a poignant cultural symbol, really, of our collective retreat from anything resembling grit or minor inconvenience.
All right, from the freezing incompetence outdoors, let's pivot indoors to the sizzling hot, rotten core of institutional financial failure. And this next story, it's an absolute masterpiece of alleged conflict of interest and stunning bureaucratic audacity. We're talking about the Office of the National Police Commissioner, Sigrid Bjørk Guðjónsdóttir.
Yes, Sigríður Bjørk, GVUT Jónsdóttir. Commissioner's consultancy circus, as it should henceforth be known. Rolly, that's Iceland's national public broadcaster. For our listeners abroad, sometimes the only source of actual investigative journalism we have left. They really blew the lid off this one.
They revealed that the National Police Commissioner's Office was running a truly staggering operating deficit, 1.22 billion Icelandic krona.
1.22 billion, just let that sink in. For context, for anyone not dealing in krona daily, that's roughly 8.5 million US dollars, or around 8 million euros. That is not just, finding spare change down the back of the sofa. That is a massive, crippling hole in the operating budget of the entire National Police Commissioner's central operation.
And what does that mean in real terms? Well, it means stalled projects, probably fewer resources on the front lines, maybe delayed equipment upgrades. Essentially, a police leadership struggling to function effectively because the money's just gone.
And Rube dug into why this deficit was so enormous. A huge chunk of it appears linked to payments made to a single consulting firm called Intra. The Commissioner's Office paid this one firm a whopping 190 million ISK over several years.
190 million krona. That's about, $1.3 million USD or 1.2 million EUR paid to one single consultant. And here's the kicker, the really delicious, potentially illegal twist. This was all done without a public tender.
Which is not some minor bureaucratic oversight. We're talking about public money here. Icelandic and indeed EU public procurement laws are very clear. Contracts of that size absolutely require an open competitive bidding process. To just hand over 190 million ISK in contracts over years to one favored firm, that screams bypassing the rules designed specifically to prevent corruption and cronyism.
This wasn't an accident. It looks like a sustained, cozy relationship deliberately kept outside the mandated transparency process.
And the consultant in question, the owner of Intra, is a woman named Torun Ogrinsdottir. She was supposedly hired to provide, wait for it, lean management advice.
Lean management. Oh, the irony. That classic corporate buzzword usually invoked right before massive layoffs or brutal cost-cutting measures.
Bringing in the efficiency expert.
Exactly, promoting fiscal responsibility.
Yeah.
And yet somehow, her very expensive lean management services bizarrely extended to include shopping trips to furnish a temporary police office.
And not just any shopping trips. Where did this high-flying 190 million krona consultant take the police budget for maximum lean efficiency? She took it to JYSK.
JYSK, yes. For our international listeners who might not know, JYSK is, shall we say, the budget end of the Scandinavian flat-pack furniture market. It's like IKEA, but cheaper. Often much cheaper. Particle board dreams. So, the National Police, drowning in a billion krona deficit, needed a consultant costing 190 million krona to advise them on how to buy affordable desks and filing cabinets from the country's main budget furniture chain. The irony is so thick you could probably build a JYSK bookshelf out of it.
But wait, it gets even better. The conflict of interest here is just. It's poetic in its blatantness.
Yeah.
It turns out that the consultant, Torun Ogrinsdottir, her husband is the CEO of JYSK in Iceland.
No, stop it, really?
Yes. So, let's recap. The consultant hired under a non-competitive, multi-million krona contract to advise the deficit-ridden police on efficiency. Also directed substantial purchasing for the police directly towards the company run by her own spouse.
It's beautiful, in a truly deeply morally bankrupt kind of way. It's a perfect closed-loop financial system, isn't it? The police budget leaks taxpayer money into the consultant's company, and then a nice chunk of that immediately cycles right back into the consultant's own household via the husband's furniture sales revenue.
It's a structural failure that reads like Chapter 1 in the handbook on how to facilitate institutional corruption while claiming to promote efficiency.
Naturally, the political reaction was swift and, well, predictably performative. The new Minister of Justice, Thorbjörg Sigríður Gunnlaugsdóttir.
Thorbjörg Sigríður Gunnlaugsdóttir.
Right. She expressed her profound surprise. That classic political word deployed when a politician definitely knew something smelled fishy, but hasn't quite figured out how to credibly distance themselves from the stench just yet.
And then she delivered the textbook political kill shot. She pointedly refused when asked directly to confirm that she still had trust in the National Police Commissioner.
Ouch. A non-confirmation of trust from your supervising minister. That's the official government equivalent of saying, I have just placed a large, conspicuously ticking bomb on your desk, and I am now walking briskly away whistling. It usually signals the beginning of the end.
You'd think so. But the sheer audacity emanating from the police commissioner's office didn't actually end there, even with the political blowback. After the scandal broke, after Roe Fit published, after the minister basically pulled her support, what do? They doubled down. They hired the consultant, Horun Odhinsdottir, directly into a temporary, full-time position within the commissioner's office.
Wait, what? They hired the JYSK shopper?
Yep. It looks like a blatant attempt to retroactively sanitize the years of questionable no-bid contracts. They couldn't justify the past payments, so they seemingly decided to just absorb the consultant into the bureaucracy itself, presumably claiming they now needed her lean management expertise internally on a full-time basis.
It's the institutional equivalent of getting caught with your hand in the cookie jar and then trying to legitimize it by officially appointing yourself chief cookie taster. They're trying to shove a round peg of cronyism into the square hole of public accountability using sheer bureaucratic force.
And potentially making her the internal architect of the very lean management system she was paid millions, possibly improperly, to consult on externally. It's breathtaking.
But this rot, this financial malaise, it's apparently not just confined to the police. This week seemed to highlight a broader, more systemic corrosion affecting the financial watchdogs themselves. If the police can't manage their own books, who is supposed to be watching the public books?
Precisely. And that brings us neatly to the concurrent meltdown happening at the National Audit Office, the NAO Ríkisendurskoðun. This is the institution, the public fund watchdog, that is supposed to scrutinize exactly this kind of financial disaster we've just been discussing at the police commissioner's office.
And what did we learn about the NAO this week? That it is currently drowning in its own internal crisis. We're hearing serious allegations of bullying, reports of a toxic work environment, and a catastrophic collapse in staff morale, all apparently happening under the current director, Guðmundur Björgvin Helgason.
The irony is just excruciating, isn't it? The very body tasked with upholding financial probity and ethical oversight across the entire public sector is itself internally dysfunctional, allegedly ethically compromised by toxic leadership, and reportedly suffering a serious brain drain as experienced staff leave.
So let's get this straight. We have the police running massive deficits, potentially fueled by crony consultancy contracts involving furniture stores, and the auditors, the critical check and balance in the system, are apparently too busy dealing with their own internal warfare and plummeting morale to effectively hold anyone accountable.
It's a perfect failure system. The checks are broken, the balances are off. It's a scenario where the watchdogs are not only asleep, they might actually be gnawing off their own paws.
And just to complete this unholy trinity of financial folly for the week, let's quickly touch on the corporate side of the equation. The energy company, HS Orka. Apparently, they engineered a rather clever mechanism to stiff the Icelandic treasury out of billions.
They did indeed. Reykjavik again, doing the Lord's work. They revealed that HS Orka had structured a multi-billion ISK internal loan, specifically from its owner. Now, this wasn't just standard corporate finance. Analysis suggests this was a specific, arguably artificial transaction designed quite transparently for one primary purpose: to minimize their tax contributions here in Iceland.
And the estimated cost to the public treasury, around 2.6 billion ISK. That's nearly double the police deficit we were just talking about.
So maybe just unpack that for the listener. How does an internal loan from your owner actually reduce your tax bill? It sounds counterintuitive.
It's cynical but depressingly simple and often perfectly legal tax avoidance. When a company takes out a loan, the interest payments it makes on that loan are generally considered tax-deductible business expenses.
Right, lowers your profit.
Exactly. So if HS Orka takes out a massive loan from its own parent company, the owner, potentially at a relatively high interest rate, it then makes large interest payments to that same owner. These large interest payments artificially inflate HS Orka's operating costs here in Iceland,
which dramatically reduces their calculated profit within Iceland.
And therefore dramatically reduces the amount of corporate income tax they have to pay to the Icelandic treasury. The profit is effectively shifted out of the taxable entity in Iceland and back into the hands of the owner, often located elsewhere, maybe in a jurisdiction with a more favorable tax treaty or lower tax rates. It's called profit shifting.
So they're using the structure of the tax code itself to actively and possibly legally engineer a way to siphon billions out of the Icelandic public purse and back to their foreign owner.
It's sophisticated financial engineering designed primarily to minimize contributions to the system they operate within. So let's connect those dots one last time. While the national police are hemorrhaging 1.2 billion ISK, partly on questionable furniture consultants.
And while the National Audit Office is apparently crippled by internal toxicity.
At the exact same time, major corporations like JYSK are successfully implementing schemes to avoid paying an estimated 2.6 billion ISK more into that same public purse.
It's a perfect failure trifecta, isn't it? It demonstrates that whether you're a state institution plagued by mismanagement or a private corporation driven by profit maximization, the net result often seems to be the systematic draining of the public system.
If the police can't afford to enforce the law effectively because they're bankrupting themselves on dodgy JYSK shopping sprees, and the auditors can't function properly because of internal strife, then aggressive corporate tax avoidance almost becomes inevitable, doesn't it? It feels like the natural, logical endpoint of widespread institutional rot.
Okay, let's try and transition from that depressing picture of systemic rot to something slightly different, maybe geopolitical absurdity, and the truly bizarre marketplace of ideas, real estate, and maybe even academic research that seem to emerge this week.
Where better to start than with the genuine economic bummer up north in Reykjavik, a town tragically immortalized by that Eurovision movie on Netflix, and now, sadly, being immortalized again by industrial collapse.
Yeah, the PCC silicon plant at Baki officially shut down operations. They laid off over 110 workers. Now, in a small community like Reykjavik, that is absolutely devastating. This isn't just a loss of jobs, it's potentially the amputation of the town's primary economic engine.
It's huge for them. And the truly cynical layer here, the part that makes you just shake your head, is the reason why it shut down, according to the unions. The Icelandic Federation of Trade Unions didn't point the finger at poor local management or, shifting global silicon markets. They explicitly blamed the closure on competition enabled by Iceland's very own free trade agreement with China.
Right, let that sink in. Our own government negotiated a diplomatic deal, hailed at the time as a great success, a political trophy, which essentially appears to have paved the way for heavily subsidized Chinese competitors to undercut and ultimately kill off a cornerstone of our own industrial base in North Iceland.
We effectively outsourced Reykjavik's livelihood for the sake of a signature on a trade agreement. It feels like economic self-immolation dressed up as savvy geopolitical strategy.
And the government's response to this entirely predictable, arguably self-inflicted, localized industrial disaster. Drum roll, please. They're forming a working group.
A working group to map opportunities.
Mapping opportunities, that magical phrase. Whenever you hear a politician utter mapping opportunities in the face of an actual crisis, you should immediately translate it in your head to, we have absolutely no concrete plan, we are desperately stalling for time, and we sincerely hope this entire problem somehow magically dissolves before the working group eventually publishes its inevitable, meticulously crafted, and completely ignored recommendations in about 6 months.
A working group is a bureaucratic placebo, isn't it? It's designed to look like action while ensuring nothing meaningful actually happens.
The sheer audacity of enabling the destruction of a town's primary industry through your own trade policy and then responding with a committee, it's just a perfect symbol of reactive, risk-averse, utterly non-committal governance.
Meanwhile, while one part of the country is facing industrial collapse, another part is apparently turning into a rather surreal real estate listing. Did you see the news that the entire campus of Bifrost University is up for sale?
BIV roast. Yeah, the whole thing. Lock, stock, and barrel.
The entire campus. We're talking 17.8 hectares of land, including all the academic buildings, the student dormitories, staff housing, the whole village, basically, listed for 3.2 billion ISK.
Now, Bifrost isn't just any old campus, is it? It has this unique history, conceived as this remote, almost monastic, intellectual hub out in the countryside, a planned academic village. Its sale feels like it signals a really radical, maybe chaotic shift in how Iceland views the future of rural communities and maybe higher education itself.
Well, the university is apparently pivoting hard towards distance learning, online programs, making this magnificent, isolated, physical campus essentially redundant and expensive relic.
And the real estate agent's sales pitch, apparently, according to the reports, the agent actually said, quote, "This place needs a visionary."
A visionary. I mean, who is the target market for an entire isolated university campus in rural Iceland? It's way too expensive for any normal buyer. It's probably too remote for a sensible corporate headquarters.
My mind immediately went to more creative possibilities. Maybe a post-apocalyptic, fully self-sufficient compound for some isolationist tech billionaire preparing for the singularity. complete with lecture halls repurposed for survival training.
Or perhaps a luxury bunker system, optimized for the global elite who think the coming climate chaos or, Tuesday snow will never reach their customized geothermal swimming pools.
Oh, and this was my favorite. The perfect ready-made headquarters for a charismatic cult leader. Think about it. An existing village structure, isolated from prying eyes, ideal for communal living, mandatory workshops, and maybe some light intellectual indoctrination. It's magnificent.
It truly is a magnificent monument, both to the rapidly changing landscape of education and to the utterly bizarre, high-stakes nature of the Icelandic property market right now. Who knows what will happen to it?
Speaking of magnificent monuments to absurdity, we absolutely have to return to the week's central, most beautiful, most resonant metaphor. The governor of the Central Bank of Iceland, Ásgeir Jónsson.
Ásgeir Jónsson, yes.
Yeah.
The man who literally controls our nation's financial blood flow, the person steering monetary policy, setting interest rates, has published academic research on the business history of Count Dracula.
You genuinely could not make this up. It's beyond satire. His research focus, according to reports, seriously explores the connections between Bram Stoker's novel, the actual business practices of 15th century Wallachian warlords, the historical Vlad the Impaler, the original Dracula,
Right.
and links him to German occult societies, and even figures like Aleister Crowley. It's quite the field of study.
So let me get this right. The man whose job it is to oversee the nation's financial blood supply is spending his spare time analyzing the financial dealings of a mythical, immortal, blood-sucking aristocrat.
It's just too perfect. It's too on the nose to be mere coincidence. It has to be some kind of cosmic commentary on the state of modern finance. It certainly gives a whole new, slightly chilling context to things like quantitative easing, doesn't it?
Is the head of our national treasury secretly trying to determine if acquiring large amounts of Transylvanian soil is a viable long-term hedge against persistent krona inflation? We need to know.
It provides such a wonderfully delicious dark lens through which to view everything else we've discussed today. When the official watchman of the nation's treasury is actively studying the historical business models of undead, blood-draining aristocrats, well, why on earth would we be surprised that the police are hemorrhaging public money on JYSK furniture via no-bid contracts?
Or that corporations are using elaborate legal structures to drain billions from the public purse through internal loans. It almost normalizes the whole thing.
Exactly. If the figurehead of financial stability himself seems to view economic systems through this bizarre lens of Gothic exploitation and occult history, what message does that send about the underlying reality of our modern economy?
That maybe transparency and accountability are just fairy tales. Convenient fictions we tell ourselves to mask the inevitable ongoing process of systemic bloodletting.
Perhaps. That's why it's the perfect metaphor for the week. The financial systems we've constructed are so complex, so opaque, perhaps only a man who studies the business practices of vampires can truly grasp how they function, and more importantly, who they are actually draining.
Okay, let's end this slightly surreal tour of the absurd marketplace on a truly stomach-turning, very visceral note. We had the case of the downtown Reykjavik Chinese restaurant, Shanghai, shut down by the health inspectorate. Why? For, and I quote, apocalyptic levels of filth and multiple severe safety violations.
Apocalyptic levels of filth. That's not a phrase you hear every day from health inspectors. That's usually reserved for, archaeological digs of plague pits, not a supposedly bustling restaurant in the city center.
But here's the detail that truly elevates this from a simple, albeit disgusting, health code violation into a genuine monument of commercial audacity. This was the second time they've been shut down recently.
The owners, after being ordered closed the first time and having the official health inspectorate seal physically applied to their front door, apparently just shrugged, broke the seal, and resumed operations as if nothing had happened.
They literally just ripped off the official legal notice from the state health authority and opened for business again. That takes a staggering level of confidence, doesn't it? A massive belief in the utter lack of effective follow-up or meaningful enforcement.
It's pure commercial arrogance. It suggests a mindset of, yeah, we can violate food safety laws, potentially compromise public health, and simply ignore the official decree shutting us down because we know the system is probably too slow, too under-resourced, or maybe just too distracted by multi-million krona JYSK shopping consultants to actually stop us effectively.
They seem to operate in a state of perceived institutional malaise, where the consequences for breaking the rules are so distant or so mild that physically breaking an official government seal is just seen as a minor operational hurdle, like running out of napkins.
It's like a commercial version of the Terminator, isn't it? Yeah. It just keeps coming back relentlessly, regardless of the physical damage, the legal injunctions, or the apocalyptic levels of filth within. #V, sporting despair, and atmospheric dread.
The coda.
All right, after witnessing the systemic failures of bureaucracy, finance, public health enforcement, and maybe even higher education real estate, let's briefly check in on the national spirit, as reflected, as it so often is, on the sporting field. Spoiler alert. Yep. It did not fare particularly well this week either.
No, it did not. We were treated, if that's the right word, to a rather humbling, fairly brutal lesson in German efficiency versus apparent Icelandic despair played out on the handball court. The men's national team was comprehensively dismantled by Germany in a friendly match on Thursday. Final score, 42-31. 31-42. Oof. That's not just a loss, that's a shellacking. A definitive, no-arguments humiliation. It felt less like a friendly match and more like another depressing demonstration of everything that seemed wrong this week. Underperformance, maybe a lack of preparation, certainly some kind of general organizational failure on the court.
The performance was apparently so abject, so far below the expected standard, that it actually elicited a truly refreshing moment of raw, completely uncensored honesty from one of the veteran players, Kari Kristjansson,
yes. His post-game analysis, caught on mic, was this brief, shining beacon of brutal truth in a sea of otherwise carefully managed corporate and political spin this week.
He didn't hold back. He reportedly called the defense and the goalkeeping an absolute disaster. He described the attack as toothless, and he specifically lamented a pathetic 9% save percentage from the goalkeepers. He just laid it out there, apparently saying, this was poor, and they know it themselves.
And you know what? That right there, that raw disgust, is probably the catharsis the entire country actually needed this week. Well, we've got Isavia executives talking about heroic deeds in the face of chaos, and police commissioners trying to justify 190 million ISK consultancy fees for lean management JYSK trips. Here's a handball player just straight up saying, nope, we were pathetic.
You can trust that honesty, can't you? You feel it. You cannot necessarily trust the carefully worded statements from the bureaucrats defending the indefensible. Give me Kari Kristjansson's brutal truth any day.
Absolutely. And the sporting humiliation perfectly continued, tying the entire week's dominant theme right back to the initial environmental failure. We had the ultimate symbol of national unpreparedness. The National Football Stadium itself was defeated.
By the weather?
Yes. The women's national football team had a crucial Nations League match scheduled against Northern Ireland at Laugardalsvöllur, our premier national stadium in Reykjavik. And the match had to be postponed. Why? Because the pitch was completely covered in snow and couldn't be cleared in time? It's just the final insult to the national ego, isn't it? A stadium supposedly maintained to international standards, located in a high-latitude North Atlantic nation, designed presumably to cope with our climate, is rendered unusable by a completely predictable, historically normal October snowfall.
It really makes you question the whole investment, doesn't it? What is the actual point of having a national stadium if it folds under the pressure of the very climate the nation actually exists within?
The game had to be moved, rather humiliatingly, to Sjótarvöllur, which is a much smaller club ground, the following day. It just perfectly encapsulates the entire week, really. A grand display of national ambition, the stadium, the institutions, followed by a spectacular, embarrassing failure to plan for Tuesday. Or for October.
Which brings us, fittingly full circle, right back to the atmosphere itself. Since the weather basically kicked off this whole mess, let's take a quick look at what Mother Nature has planned to keep the general sense of atmospheric dread alive and kicking for the next week. This is your essential weekly dose of misery, forecast for November 1st through 8th.
Okay, hit me. How bad is today, Saturday, November 1st?
Today is basically maintaining the chaos. We've got a severe gale blowing, winds easily exceeding 20 meters per second in exposed areas. Heavy rain battering the south, transitioning to blizzards up in the west fords. Yellow weather warnings are plastered pretty much everywhere across the map.
So the official forecast basically mandates staying indoors, possibly engaging in heavy drinking, and definitely some deep existential contemplation.
That would be my interpretation, yes. The weekend relief, of course, is purely Icelandic in its nature. The main storm system is forecast to shift northwards on Sunday, but the south is then treated to a brief, mostly dry reprieve.
Mostly dry. Which, as every Icelander knows, translates practically to persistent, gray, soul-crushing drizzle, combined with temperatures hovering just around the freezing point.
Precisely. The perfect conditions, in other words, for creating Iceland's signature treacherous geological hazard, Glærhálka.
Glærhálka, black ice. That transparent, almost invisible, lethal sheen that turns every sidewalk, every raid patch, every driveway into a silent, sudden, potentially bone-breaking hazard. Beautiful. The week begins with dramatic, visible chaos, and then immediately transitions into subtle, underlying, pervasive treachery underfoot.
And Monday through Wednesday, prepare for a miserable gray expanse. Persistent northeasterly winds, bringing sporadic rain showers near the coast, maybe some snow further inland. Temperatures remain stubbornly parked right around freezing, ideal for maximizing the national risk of slipping, falling, and suffering a debilitating hip fracture combined with an equally debilitating existential crisis.
Lovely. And how do we round off the week? Any hope of sunshine?
Thursday through next Saturday look. Unstable. Cloudy, chilly, generally unsettled. So our cynical conclusion from earlier holds absolutely firm. The chances of actually seeing the Northern Lights this coming week are precisely equal to the chances of Isavia issuing a sincere, detailed, factually accurate, non-bitchin' apology for their catastrophic performance at the airport this past week.
So basically 0 chance on both counts then.
Do not hold your breath for either, no. The Aurora might theoretically be dancing up there, but genuine corporate accountability, that seems to be firmly below the horizon for the foreseeable future. Hashtag tag hashtag Soka, outro, and final warning.
So there you have it. That was the week that was reviewed. Where the recurring themes were, shall we say, relentless. Financial cronyism masquerading as lean management furniture consultation.
Bureaucratic paralysis and blame shifting in the face of entirely predictable snow.
And the literal physical failure of our national infrastructure from airports to stadiums when confronted with a Tuesday in late October.
It all proves quite clearly, I think, that the most compelling, the most fascinating stories are almost always the ones that the official institutional narrative tries desperately to bury. Usually under a thick layer of corporate spin, or maybe some convenient yellow weather warnings, or perhaps even a massive, interest-deductible internal loan designed to make profits disappear.
The system often seems designed not just to fail, but to fail spectacularly, frequently, and for some, quite profitably.
Before we let you go, a final thought. Something for you to chew on this weekend, perhaps as you carefully navigate the treacherous Glærhálka outside. Based on that beautiful duality of our central bank governor studying the business history of vampires.
Yes.
In a modern financial system where the official watchman of the national treasury is actively, academically examining the historical business models of immortal, blood-sucking aristocrats, is it possible that the concept of financial transparency is actually just a convenient fairy tale? A comforting story we tell ourselves to feel slightly better about the inevitable ongoing systemic draining of the public purse.
Just a thought. Think about the sheer irony of it, and then maybe think about the actual cost.
We've done our best to give you some painful clarity today, maybe some uncomfortable truths, and quite possibly ruin any lingering belief you might have had in Nordic competence forever. So please, heed our final warning.
You probably shouldn't follow us. Definitely don't subscribe to this broadcast. Ignorance truly is bliss. And we seem to deal exclusively in agonizing, cynical knowledge that might, unfortunately, provoke an actual thought in your brain.
Yeah, don't subscribe. It'll just make you critically question the very systems that govern your ability to acquire Halloween candy, or maybe avoid being fined 80,000 ISK for meticulously following the law. Who needs that hassle?
We're signing off from Bad Things Well Said Icelandic Newsroom. We will inevitably be back next Saturday to catalog the next week of delicious, predictable, and undoubtedly well-spun disaster. Stay cynical.
The voices in this podcast were generated by AI. However, all information, facts, claims, concepts, and the script itself were prepared, editorially reviewed, and are the original work of a human author.